Hey guys, welcome back to another episode here. Today we're going to take a closer look at my second favorite semiconductor company, Advanced Micro Devices, ticker AMD. The company just reported earnings, and unfortunately investors are not too happy. As we can see after hours, the stock is down roughly 3%. I want to say right now AMD, as I am looking through their earnings are pretty uneventful, and unfortunately the company did miss on guidance. Let's take a closer look in today's episode. So let's get started. All right, so first let's take a closer look at the results. We can see revenue was $5.8 billion for the company. This is up on a 4% year-over-year basis and up 8% sequentially. Analysts were expecting somewhere around, if I remember, somewhere around 5.7 billion. So there was a very, very small beat here in revenue. Now, if we take a closer look at adjusted earnings per share, it was roughly 70 cents here in quarter three, up 4% sequentially and up 4% year over year and up roughly 21% sequentially. 70 cents also did beat analyst expectations. Analysts were expecting somewhere around 68 cents. So it beat a revenue by roughly $100 million, and it did beat earnings per share by roughly 2 cents. Nothing crazy, and I do believe this is what has investors a little bit worried.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
More importantly, let's just go down to the bottom. For the fourth quarter, AMD expects revenue to be somewhere between 6.1 billion plus or minus 300 at midpoint, which represents 9% sequential growth and roughly 9% year-over-year growth and 5% sequential growth. So we are kind of seeing that the bottom has happened for the market, at least in semiconductor revenue. But unfortunately, investors were expecting somewhere around $6.4 billion in estimates for the current quarter. So unfortunately, we can see that AMD did miss on guidance, and I do believe as of now that is what's really driving the stock price down. We are obviously going to take a closer look at the earnings call later in this channel, so make sure to hit the thumbs up as I am going to do more of a deep dive later on. Today we're going to do more of a top level overview, so I hope you guys enjoy the episode. So if we take a closer look at what's happening here for AMD, they do mention that they deliver strong revenue and earnings growth driven by the demand for their Ryzen 7000 series PC processors and record server processor sales. So right off the bat, we are seeing that, hey, look, inventory correction, what we learned from Intel in the consumer client market seems to be done, and now we should start to see stronger growth in the PC business. And that's what's happening here with the Ryzen 7000. The company also saw record server processor sales, which also do really well. Then they do mention for their data center business, they see a significant growth trajectory based on the strength of their EPYC CPU portfolio and the ramp of Instinct MI300 accelerated shipments to support multiple deployments with hyperscalers, enterprise, and AI customers. So right off the bat, I do want to say that little key mark, in my opinion, should be a little bit bullish for AMD, as it does seem like they might be getting some orders a little bit earlier than anticipated, as they are kind of ramping up those products right now. For the fourth quarter, the company does see strong growth in data center. Remember, we do have the MI300 coming out and shipping to a supercomputer, where that's going to see a nice amount of sequential growth, and the continued momentum in the client market. Unfortunately, they are seeing lower sales in the gaming segment and additional softening on the demand in the embedded market. And that's something that we knew from AMD previously, that the embedded market was going to be weak. We're going to see how weak it was. And unfortunately, the gaming segment, right, I do believe it's 2-3 years of the new Xbox and the new PlayStation. So now that starts to see lower sales, but that's expected, right? That's how your typical cycle goes. Now, if we take a closer look at the data center market, and let's kind of look here at their overall revenue and slideshow. I really want to look at the numbers that they presented to us during their earnings presentation. First, the data center market, right? We can see net revenue was roughly 1.6 billion. It was flat on a year-over-year basis. This is exactly what AMD actually gave us last quarter. They said it was going to be flat on a year-over-year basis, but it was up 21% on a quarter-over-quarter basis. We also did see a nice growth in operating income. Operating income was up almost over 100% 10% on a quarter-over-quarter basis. I am guessing it's now that the company has already released so many new products, the research and development for the data center is kind of getting smaller, that kind of expense there, which is obviously boosting operating income. So really well for the data center market. If we take a closer look at what AMD had to say, they did mention that, look, right now revenue increased 21% sequentially here as customers' adoption of fourth generation AMD EPYC CPUs accelerated during the quarter. So that bodes really, really well for AMD and for their data center CPUs. They also mentioned that the AMD Instinct MI300 are on track for volume production in the fourth quarter to support deployments with several leading high-performance computing, cloud, and AI customers. So obviously this bodes well for the AI market for them. I hope they tell us a little bit more during the kind of earnings call. All right, so now if we take a closer look at the client business, on the bright end, operating income is finally profitable. A year ago, it was down 26 million as over inventory corrections were starting to take place, and a quarter ago, it was roughly a loss of 69 million. Now operating income is profitable, $140 million, mainly because of that growth in kind of the client market and the end of this kind of inventory correction as of now. If we take a closer look, they do mention that the client segment was up because of the huge demand for their Ryzen 7000 series CPU sales. Again, seems like the inventory correction market is back. The inventory correction is over for a lot of the client and consumer electronics in the moment. That's something that we did hear from Intel in the previous earnings call. Now the gaming market, that is down 8% year over year and down 5% sequentially. Not too much, right? But it definitely is some impact to the company. Operating income is still profitable. The main reason, if we take a closer look, we do see a decline in semi-custom revenue, which are the chips that go on like the PlayStation, on the Xbox. But luckily, they are seeing an offset and increase on their GPU sales. So that obviously bodes really well, especially recently, AMD announced that some of their high-end GPUs in the consumer market can be used for AI solutions. And I do believe that might push AMD's GPU revenue a little bit more. Now, if we take a closer look at the embedded market was down 5% on a year-over-year basis and was down 15% on a quarter-over-quarter basis. The embedded market, we do believe that this is the top last quarter. The company mentions that revenue decreased 15% due to inventory correction at customers in several end markets. And usually when you start to see over inventory correction, like we saw for the PC client, it usually takes somewhere between 2 to 4 quarters for those to fix out, maybe sometimes even 5. So we are going to hear from AMD more on their market outlook to see how long this inventory correction is going to last. But I at least want to say at least 2 more quarters from here. At the end of the day, this market is still very, very profitable for AMD, roughly 50% margins there. Like we mentioned, we saw the kind of financial outlook for quarter 4, roughly 9% year-over-year growth and 5% quarter-over-quarter growth. Some final things I wanted to mention about AMD is they did make a few AI highlights. They did make 2 acquisitions. They acquired a company called Node.ai to kind of expand the company's AI software capabilities, and they also acquired a software leader, Mipsology, with proven expertise delivering AI software and solutions running on top of AMD adaptive computing silicon. The next thing they mention is an AI startup, Lamini, unveiled that it has been running production-ready large language models exclusively on AMD Instinct accelerators, enabling enterprise customers to deploy large language models fine-tuned for their specific data across hundreds of AMD MI250 GPUs. All of these seem to be more of startups, right? So we can definitely see that AMD is still in the early games of this AI market. We are going to have to see what the company has to say with the MI300. But I do want to say earnings were very uneventful, nothing crazy. I guess investors were hopeful for maybe, hey, a confirmation of certain customers for the MI300 market. Nothing there. We definitely saw that improvement in the client space. We saw the decline in the embedded market. We saw a flatness in the data center market. But all that was what we knew would happen as the company shared that exact information during last quarter. So very uneventful, but at the end of the day, I still am very bullish bullish for the company. AMD stock price is sitting at $94 right now, but I do believe we recently saw those price points right earlier, late on October 26th. It was roughly $93.67. Earnings right here don't give me any reason to sell, and I do believe AMD sitting below $100 does have a nice kind of risk to reward opportunity, but that's just my overall thoughts. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Take care, have a good day, and see you next time.